these nano lubricants will be very much useful. Samir has done some, in his company, they have done some innovations in the nano lubricants. So it's going to be a very interesting subject. And I have my friend and our member, Umesh Badkamkar, who will introduce Samir, and then Samir will start his presentation. So without spending much time, I will request Umesh to introduce Samir.
Hello everyone, I am Umesh Badkamkar. I would like to introduce you to my dear friend Mr. Samir Bhagvat. He is an electrical engineer and has done MBA in marketing. He is a versatile and innovative person. He has 25 years experience in technical field, sales, business development, as well as formation of the new application-based nanotechnology lubricant for special application like extreme pressure, high temperature, and light to medium and heavy shock load for mining machine, textile machine, paper mill, automotive, and manufacturing sector. Samir is a certified machinery lubrication analyst by International Council of Machinery Lubrication USA and have worked with international brands. Currently, he is a formulating and manufacturing lubrication under the name Ayati, super specialty lubricant. The results are fantastic. Tested across the India as per international standard, and it is drastically reduce wear and tear of the component, adding more life to the equipment and reduce warranty cost drastically for OEM as well as owner of the equipment. Nanotechnology lubrication are becoming essential in today's fast moving industrial world for better protection against wear and extreme extended life of the machines. Thank you. Now hand over to Mr. Samir Bhagwat.
Thank you, Umesh sir, and thank you Tech Forum to for giving me the platform to showcase about the nanotechnology lubricants, which is a new concept to Indian market. Sure. So in today's scenario where we are facing a lot of challenges about the availability of the base oils or the additives because of the international crisis of the war, uh, many industries are looking out for good solutions where they can have a reliability about the performance of lubricants. uh, Many tech people who are having their own manufacturing units or doing some technical work, they will understand what I'm saying, because they all the people are facing a lot of challenges about the availability of the sources, and they are greatly dependent upon the existing product. So there are two opportunities when we talk about the nano lubricants. One is about extending the life of the existing lubricants, which is practically difficult, but not that difficult if you are using nano additives. And another is introducing the very specific nano based lubricants which can replace the conventional products. Now when I say conventional products, those are the regular running products in the industries, and eventually they will be challenged by the nano lubricants with the betterment and reliability engineering. So in next 10 minutes, I will try to explain what the basic requirements of the industry and what the basic nanotechnology is. So as you can see on the screen, the basic requirement of any industrial manufacturer or any company as of now, so it's a major requirement is of the protecting industrial equipment and increasing the performance. Now, when I say protecting industrial equipments, why it is important? Because normally the cost of lubricants is not that high, but the cost of the asset is in crores. So eventually, when we talk about any lubricant or any, we are suggesting any lubricant for a specific application, we have to understand the application engineering and the importance of the asset. So why nanotechnology from Maitre Sales and Services and Ayati Lubricants? So let us discuss about this Ayati lubricants in the industry. So when I say Ayati, Ayati is a Sanskrit name which explain about, like it gives a indication like god-like particle. So it is something like unique, and which is like god-like particle, which will be taking care of all the issues and all the problems of the lubricants. So welcome to nanotechnology lubricants world. We at Ayati Lubricants are probably the only Indian manufacturer. This is a bold statement I'm doing, but whatever the tungsten disulfide technology we are using, probably nobody else is using as of now. So we are probably the only Indian manufacturer with extremely rare inorganic fullerene-like structure of nanotechnology with technical advices by Nanotech Industrial Solutions USA. So lubricants reliability is a critical to improve the service life of industrial equipment. So when I say lubricant reliability, we have to understand the performance of the lubricant. So mostly when we select a lubricant, we have to rely greatly on the properties of a lubricant, which normally we get from the technical data sheet of any lubricant. But how about the reliability part? So whether we are using a correct lubricant for the correct application, that is the main thing to be understood. So eventually, when we're eventually lowering the production cost and meeting the environmental requirements is the biggest challenge, no matter what industry you are working and your customers are in. So if you want to see your company thrive, then you should ensure that the machinery works in your favor, increasing the operations overall productivity, efficiency, and profitability. So most of these goals can be achieved through the cutting edge innovative lubrication based on nanotechnology. So when I say that the machine should work in your favor and increasing the operations overall productivity, that basically greatly depends upon the predictive maintenances that we are planning. So when we plan a predictive maintenance, we normally follow the machinery performance as in related to the production part. But whatever the lubricants we are using, unfortunately mostly the lubrication is little bit untouched area, or people are not really giving that much importance to the lubricant part. But whenever the failure comes, the basic and the major दोष हम लोग जो बोलते हैं, that is given to the lubricant. Lubrication की वजह से failure हो गए. So let us understand more about the nanotechnology. Now this is a very bold statement, but this is purely based on my personal experience in the field, and having interacted with more than 1,000 people so far during my 25 years tenure in lubricants. So many operators and owners of industrial equipment underestimate the importance of effective lubrication and how it can improve productivity. Now this is really bold statement, because people will say we are there in this industry for more than 40 years, 50 years. We are running the factories. We are doing thousands of crores of business. But yes, unfortunately, this statement is still true. Now the below figures which are mentioned in percentage, those are actual real life facts which I have observed and documented by myself. 46% of operators place importance on lube performance while purchasing the lubricants. Only 28% understand how wear protection can lead to saving and better production. And 59% admit their errors in machinery lubrication have led to unplanned downtime. Now, the interesting part is, even if the 59% people admit their errors in judging the lubrication, they are not implementing a proper lubrication, because the lubrication is most neglected element in the entire budget of a company. So hypothetically, let us consider a budget of a company is 100 crores, which includes everything, your raw materials, your operation costs, your people costs, and everything. So to be very honest, hardly 2 to 3% of the entire budget is towards the lubrication. Now this 2 to 3% includes all type of lubrication. It is hydraulic oil, gear oil, cutting oil, metalworking fluid, greases, specialty greases, so on and so forth. So eventually, with the special greases or the specialty application, what we are talking about, it is even lesser than that. It is hardly in the range of 0.5% to 1%. But trust me, if we will focus on this 0.5 to 1% with a proper selection criteria, this will eliminate almost 20% of the errors and unplanned downtimes happening in the industries. So properly lubricated production assets will deliver better results. See, eventually in the first introduction also, I said very prominently that our focus is purely on the asset management and asset reliability rather than the lubrication. Because again, what happens is, The asset is the one which is a productive part and which is giving you the entire production output as desired or as planned. So a lubricant, when we are proposing a lubricant for a particular asset, the lubricant should protect from elements like water, oxidation, dust, sludge. Then the lubricant should cool parts by absorbing excess heat from high friction zones. And the lubrication should reduce harmful friction by preventing metal to metal contact and reducing wear. Now, when I say by harmful friction, this is a very interesting part to be discussed with. Now, let me tell you very honestly, friction is the most required part of our entire life, because without friction, nothing will happen. Just for example's sake, if you are using a extra high lubrication for a clutch plate of a motor, it will start slipping. It will give an excellent average, but the clutch plate will be gone because a little friction is a mandatory over there. The controlled friction is required in many applications. So when I say to reduce the harmful friction, that means the friction which is not required or friction which is needed to be controlled. Next, please. So with Ayati lubricants with nanotechnology, what we can help any asset or any company, the first and foremost is increase the machinery efficiency. So let's take a very simple example of a bearing which is running in a very harsh condition in a ball mill in a steel plant, which is exposed to extremely high load, dust, dirt, very hazardous atmosphere, climate changes and everything, water accumulation and so on and so forth. So normally, if a good lubrication is not used there, good grease is not used there, the rated life of the bearing starts getting reduced, because of course the impact of all these aspects is directly on the bearing surface. And once the bearing surface start getting damaged, naturally it will start deteriorating the bearing life. This is a very simple example. This is applicable for everything. It may be for the open gears, it may be for the gearboxes, it may be for the hydraulic systems, chain conveyors, so on and so forth, everywhere. So if a good lubricant or a proper lubricant, properly selected lubricant is used, then the machinery life or the machinery efficiency also can be increased. Second point is to overcome the challenges caused by the demanding conditions. As I said right now, if there is a dust accumulation, water accumulation, we should have the products which will repel the water, which will protect from water accumulation, or maybe protect from the dust accumulation, so on and so forth. Extend service intervals. Now this is very interesting part. Mostly whenever the conventional lubrication are used, let us take an example of a grease in a steel roller mill, or maybe in a mining industry where there are excavators being used 24 by 7, or maybe a crusher plant where the big stones are crushers and are crushed and aggregates are made out of it. So in all these harsh conditions, the lubrication cycle, the relubrication cycle is very, very frequent. I mean, I have seen in most excavators, if it is running 24/7 in hazardous atmosphere, they are re-greasing all the pins and bushes in that excavator almost every 4 hours to 8 hours time interval. So now, if I am considering every 4 hours to 8 hours re-greasing in that particular pin and bush, the repeated re-greasing they have to stop the application, stop the total process of excavation, and they have to re-grease. They have to wait for some time. So it's a loss of almost 1 hour. And naturally, if they are lubricating for 2 to 3 times, 4 times, 5 times in a row, naturally the quantity of the grease used is also very high. So if I can provide a grease which can give an interval of 48 hours in place of 4 hours to 8 hours, naturally the service intervals are extended. All the losses of production are controlled because they don't have to stop for every 1 hour after for the re-greasing and all that. Also, the manpower used for the re-greasing and everything also can be utilized for some another work. That is, this is one single example, and this is applicable for almost all applications in the industry where there are opportunities of extending the service intervals. And of course reducing the maintenance cost, because if the asset is being saved, if the bearing or the open gear or the wire rope or the conveyor chain links are saved, they are properly lubricated for a longer duration, naturally their performance and their life is going to extend. Naturally the related maintenance cost also will go down. Of course now it is related to minimizing the downtime, because if the machinery is working properly without giving any issues and without requiring any maintenance, naturally it can give better working conditions continuously, and the downtime can be minimized. naturally it will maximize the productivity, naturally it will increase the profits. And of course, if there are no repeated usage or re-greasing or re-lubrication is done, the wastage or the throwing of the used hydraulic oils or gear oils, everything can be also controlled. Naturally, we can control the carbon footprints and improve the environmental footprints too. Now, this is very interesting. What exactly the nano lubricants, what we are offering, and what the nanotechnology is, what I mean by the nanotechnology. When I say nanotechnology, that means everything is happening at the submicron structure. Okay. So now, if we'll go back a little bit, like around 2 decades back, graphite was introduced as a solid lubricant in greases and some open gear lubricants and the pastes and some very specific high load applications. Almost a decade back, Moly, MOS2, Moly was introduced as a solid lubricant. So Moly based product hai, graphite based product hai, where the terms we were using. Now, with the increase in the efficiency of a machinery or the speed of the machinery in today's life, or maybe going towards the automation, naturally the requirement of lubrication also is changing. So whether we are adopting the changes of the lubrication, that is the major part and major thing to be discussed with. Mostly, the manufacturers recommend some particular lubricant for some particular product. But if we want to extend the life, we have to go with the nanotechnology. Now, what exactly we are offering? I guess all of you can see the structure like a football over here. Now you can see in a football, it is not a single leather. There are pentagons which are stitched together like this. The pentagons are stitched together of a different pentagons are stitched together so that the pressure which is implying on the football, because whenever we are kicking the football, the pressure the air from inside also is getting expanded, and as well as there are enormous kicks happening on the football from the outside. So naturally, if there is a single leather, it will crack immediately. But if the pentagons are stitched together, the load is getting divided on these multiple points in the football. So whenever there is an impact of a kick on the football, the entire load is getting divided on these different pentagons and these different points where the structure of the leather is kept intact. And you can see the structure of onion here. So when we peel an onion, you feel you get different peels. We're peeling the upper surface, there is one more layer, there is another layer, there is another layer, so there are multiple layers. So basically what we are trying to introduce with our nanotechnology greases or lubricants is to have a film of lubrication in a form of a football like, that is called as inorganic fullerene like structure between the two metal surfaces in a form of multi-layer structure like onion. So if I'll go a little deep into the technology, there are no plain or smooth surfaces, smooth metal surfaces in the world. So if you can see any smooth surface nearby you, I mean the mobile screen is the best thing to do a practical right now. Everybody is having the mobile in their hands. The surface of the mobile, the screen is very smooth, what we feel. But if you'll put a little pressure on the surface with your finger and try to rub it, your finger also starts getting a little hot, and even the surface starts getting little hot. That is because there are asperities between the two surfaces. Now, I was explaining about the graphite and the moly a little while back. So, when graphites were introduced, there was a continuous film of lubrication between the two metal surfaces of the graphite. In case of moly, moly was forming a very thin film of lubrication between the asperities. And what we are doing, we are introducing the roller-like structures between the asperities. So the two metal surfaces will roll all each other rather than sliding on each other. So naturally, there is one very simple example everyone can probably relate. Almost, I mean, those who are in 40s and 50s, those will definitely relate what I'm saying. We were playing marbles when we were in our kid age, when we were in school days. So a heavy person of 90 kgs like me could also easily sleep on a single marble if it is below my foot. The reason behind the contact between my foot and the earth, the soil, was entirely reduced to a two single point of contact with the marble. So let us consider I am introducing thousands of such marbles or thousands of such rollers between the two metal surfaces. Naturally, the friction will be avoided to enormous extent and the surfaces will easily roll over each other. Of course, it is required to be done in a controlled friction manner. So, when I am saying use of this particular roller-like structure between the two surfaces, what are the benefits we are getting using the IT lubricants nanotechnology? These are the claims which are been tested and proven in the field. So, a friction will be reduced up to 35%. The wear reduction is up by almost 37%. Now, when I say wear reduction, as Umesh sir also introduced in the first this thing, the wear protection or wear reduction is a very, very important factor because it is directly related to the metallurgy or metal surface of the machinery that you are using. So, if a wear is controlled, naturally the degradation of the metal surface is controlled to a notable extent. And if it is up to 37%, it is really, really very high. Now, when then the operating temperature is lowered by up to 6 to 10%. Now, let us consider a gearbox with a gear oil 460 working around temperature of around 80-85 degrees during the very high load conditions in steel or cement or thermal power or etc. Now, because of the atmospheric conditions, because unfortunately in India, this particular summer season, the temperature went up to 50 degrees Celsius. I was in Singareni coal mines in Hyderabad last week. The temperature was 50 degrees Celsius. We are working in the 50 degrees Celsius temperature in the coal mines, and the temperature of the gearboxes, believe me, it was around 125 degrees Celsius. It was shoot like anything. Now, there are no gearboxes which are meant to work at that temperature. 60-65 degree is a very acceptable temperature for the gearboxes. Now, if a gearbox is working at 125 degrees, naturally the lubricant inside is going to get deteriorated extremely fast. So, if at all I am avoiding the friction generated temperature in a gearbox, let the atmospheric condition have an impact on the gearbox that is out of our control. But if I am controlling the friction generated temperature and I am not allowing the friction to increase the temperature of a gearbox to that level, then then naturally the temperature of the gearbox is lowered up to 6 to 10%. So naturally the gearbox performance or the lubricant performance also will increase by that particular limit. Vibration is also down by 5 to 8% because we are getting a very good lubrication film between the two surfaces. There is a good impact load sustaining. So naturally vibrations are also controlled and eventually that will have a direct impact on the machinery performance. Noise reduction is up to 10%. Naturally this vibration and noise are almost related to NVH, what we called as. So that is also reduced to a very notable extent. As I explained earlier, the tangible lubricant consumption reduction, because if I am giving a life of 5 to 6 times than the conventional grease, so naturally the quantity required for that particular one is also reduced by that particular times. So consumption also is getting reduced. Service intervals extended up to 4 to 5 times. As I said right now, if I am giving a re-lubrication intervals to 4 to 5 times, the service intervals are getting extended. Naturally the maintenance expenses are reduced. So entire cost of ownership, so when I say cost of ownership of a particular machinery or a application, these all things are having a direct impact on the cost of ownership. Now, to be very honest with you, unfortunately, whenever a particular cost is considered for a machinery and their operations and their maintenance, the total cost of ownership is the only thing we should focus on while deciding all the terms about selecting a lubricant and everything. But unfortunately, sorry, the selection criteria is mostly in the hands of the purchasers, and they tend to go with the cost reduction on the pure cost basis and L1 basis. But I request all of the tech people here who are having their machineries, please focus on the cost of ownership, which is a very, very important factor. And trust me, it will give you at least 10 to 15% saving on the entire cost, which is huge when we consider a big plant. Naturally the last and important part is the productivity goes up and the profits goes up. Next please. So here are a few examples. What about a gear oil I was talking about? Now these are all real life cases and these are available on the web. You can always go and search for the nanotechnology gear oils, and that they will give you this particular output, this kind of, maybe in different forms, but the output will be the same. Now, if you'll be able to see the two figures here. One is in the orange color, one is in the green color. The orange one is the industry's best synthetic gear oil I'm talking about. But again, I'm saying it is a conventional lubricant because it is not fortified with nano. Now, when I'm saying a very good synthetic gear oil, you can see the gear teeth, and on the gear teeth there is a continuous film of lubrication. Now this scenario is from the web again, that people they have shared their slides on the slide shares, and everywhere you can find this, that there should be a continuous film of lubrication on the gear teeth, so that the lubrication between the two gear teeth will be a easy process, it will be a smooth operation. Yes, this is a good oil, this is a good synthetic oil, well known brand globally, and having a good film of lubrication between the two metal surfaces. Now, when I'm applauding this particular synthetic oil, and I'm sharing good things about this particular oil, what is the difference between this nano and this one? Now you can see there is a single film of lubrication between the two surfaces, and here you can see there are multiple points, as I was mentioning about the football structure. Now consider a temperature of 125 degrees in a gearbox, as I was saying, in the Singareni coal mines, and there is an enormous load. So naturally, at that particular temperature, the film will start getting deteriorated very fast, and at time it may happen that the film of lubrication between the two surfaces may get chipped off completely. So whenever there is a film getting chipped off, there is a direct one-to-one metal-to-metal contact happening between the gear surfaces. Unlike in the nano based gear oils, we are having the multiple layer structure in a form of multiple point of contact structures. So even if under very high temperatures, very high impact loads, some surface of this particular one is getting chipped off, the remaining surface or the upper surface is getting chipped off, the layer below that particular surface is again having a lubricity, and your machinery or your gearbox is still running under a proper lubrication condition. Now this is very important factor, and believe me, if the trials are allowed in a big machineries, it can be proven immediately, because current is a very good parameter to justify the performance of a good lubricant. So let us consider a motor running with a certain 50 ampere current requirement, and this particular scenario is there, running good under 50 amperes. At times it may get a spike to 55 because the film is getting reduced or chipped off. In this particular condition, we can prove that the current drawn is reduced by 2 to 3% to, in some cases, up to 10%. Forget about 10%. If I'll only consider 2% reduction in the entire power requirement, trust me, in a very huge gearboxes, whatever the electricity, commercial electricity is being used, saving 2% cost is very high. And believe me, the lubrication cost can be nullified only using the advantage of reduction of this particular 2% as well. Of course, these things are to be proven with trials, and I always request my clients, customers, or every end user, let us consider, conduct a trial, let the product prove, let the product speak, because this is a concept what I have brought to India. But the concept, rather than the concept speaking, let the product speak. Yes, so this is the base of the nanotechnology lubricants and nanotechnology greases that we would like to introduce using the IATI lubricants. So please feel free to contact us for any kind of commercial assistance, technical support. I am wide open for discussions. This is my contact number. And this is the basic of the nanotechnology that we would like to introduce. Now, when I say we are having products for very specific application engineering based formulated, so that means we are having particular greases for high temperatures, high speed, high loads, high impact loads, wire rope lubrication, silicone greases, polyurea based high temperature greases for extremely long duration, that is 1 year, 6 months, or 1 year's life. We are having some PAP, PTFE based Teflon greases which can be used in the paint booth conveyors in paint shops in many industries, which will give 6 months, 1 year life once applicated. We are having huge grease range, particularly for the IDFD fan bearings, blower fan bearings. We are having a good range of glycol based gear oils, polyalpha olefin based gear oils. We are having an extremely good range of vacuum oils, particularly competing the number one, if I can take the name Labord, which is the best one in the industry. We are competing with the best one in the industry. So to conclude particular this presentation, before we go to question answers, I would like to share the concept of bringing this nanotechnology to India. There are two reasons. One is we are competing to the international brands like Kluber, OKS, Stanvac, Rocol, Beckham, Molycote, and so on and so forth, which are purely imported and are extremely costly. So our products are proving exactly well against their performance at par or even better at very competitive prices, so that the imported cost can be also controlled. There is one more there is cost saving happening in that way as well. And if the conventional products are used, of course my cost is around 2x to 3x as compared to conventional, but the performance is 5x to 8x. So naturally, if I'll compare with the mathematical calculations, even if at 2x to 3x cost and the performance 5x to 8x, again I am able to prove my cost saving. So the entire approach is towards the CPC, cost per component saving, the entire cost saving, and as I said earlier, the ownership of the total cost used for the machinery should be in control and should be saved. So that is the only thing I'm trying to introduce something to this particular industrial lubricants and industrial machineries. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce this nanotechnology. If I may request that if we can shift to the question and answers session, can we go ahead, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much for nice presentation, Samirji. This is SP Bhatnagar. I have one interesting observation and as well as comment and your advice. We had worked on nano magnetic fluids
Okay.
for our research. So there used to be some kind of nano magnetic lubrication also. People have worked. We have not worked on that area, but people have used that. So they said that what happens is that these magnetic particles, for example, let's say a bearing is there. So if
Hmm.
you magnetize the balls there, then these magnetic particles which work as lubricant, they stick to the balls, and so the lubrication process continues for longer time. So have you tried anything like that? Because you have got nice fullerenes, and we can embed a nanomagnetic particle in that. So that could also be one just
It can be,
improvement.
it can be definitely tried and tested in the future, Bhatnagar Saab. But one major constraint, what I feel, see, I'm not a metallurgist or a chemical person, but my logic says if naturally if there is a magnetic element which is getting attracted and attached to a bearing, it must be some metal. It cannot be a non-metal. So if at all a metal particle may be oxidized in oxidized form or something which is getting attached to the bearing surface, in regular running conditions, it may have some impact of abrasion on the housing itself,
Right.
or maybe on the
Correct.
bearing. So that's the drawback probably, and that is why probably the heavy load or high speed industries are not using this particular one. Maybe I don't know. I need to check on this particular one. It can be probably used in aerospace and something where oxidation is avoided at a quite a good extent.
Right, right. These are actually iron oxide particles normally, which are
Right.
magnetic. So
Correct.
what I was telling is that if we can embed the particles inside your this nano balls,
Hmm.
fullerenes, then both the things can be done. Perhaps this is just an open
Yeah,
thinking
it
kind.
can be, it can be definitely tried, but again there is a limitation of the costs in the Indian industries mainly, because they're embedding this particular already I'm using a submicron particle of a fullerene, then uske andar usko dalna hai, to I have to go to really that kind of structure and everything. The cost may go really very high. So maybe very niche applications where we can really try this in coming future, or maybe if a bearing manufacturer is interested in doing such thing, then probably we can definitely try out on this. I'll definitely
Yeah.
try to work this out, sir. I'll let you know on the basic theoretical study on this if there is a possibility of doing this.
Okay, so just one second. One of my colleagues has tried inserting these nanoparticles in the carbon nanotubes, and
Okay.
she has succeeded in that. So what I'll do is I'll pass on your details to her, and
Sure, please.
if they are interested, they can develop, because they have
Sure,
done
please.
this magnetic oil for windmills. Something they have tried
Okay.
out. So I'm not sure what happened finally, but they were
Okay.
trying about a year back. So I'll pass on your message, this number to her, and she
Sure,
may
please. Sure,
contact
please.
you.
Much obliged. I will definitely try to discuss and take it forward, sir. Thanks a lot for this suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is similar example I know. Ferric fluid.
Uh-huh.
It's a nanoparticles of ferrous material, magnetic material, used in the gap of loudspeaker, matlab voice coil and magnet. And this has improved the performance as far as the power handling capacity of the loudspeaker is concerned. Multifold power handling capacity has increased. So this is one application I have been tried when during my Philips days.
Great.
So
Okay.
just wanted to share this input.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thanks. This is an interesting part because it will be helping in the vibration control and controlling part in the in very few applications where there is a gap is extremely less between the two metal surfaces.
Good morning, Samirji. I'm Sudhir Sambre.
Morning, sir.
My question is, uh, when we are applying these nano fluids, earlier material will have to be removed totally, or you can add in that.
Now it depends upon the compatibility of any product. See, if it is a, whenever we are selecting a particular grease or a particular lubricant or oil, we have to understand the basic composition of the previously used lubricant and the new lubricant that we are introducing. So let us consider a lithium complex base grease, which has been in the bearing, or maybe a glycol based gear oil. So in a glycol based gear oil, we can introduce our nano base glycol gear oil only. But if it is a polyalpha olefin, we have to go with polyalpha olefin. But preferred is to clean the machinery very thoroughly, clean it up and rinse it up and add a new lubricant, because then the performance can be tested to the optimized condition, to the threshold rather. Because mostly what happens is the residuals of the previously used gear oils or hydraulic oils or the greases are always there in the machinery, in the pockets or in some some typical corners of the gearbox or corners of the bearing housing and so on, which cannot be removed easily. So in particular case of the bearing, if we are trying to introduce our nano based greases in the existing application, in the existing product, we first study the compatibility. If the compatibility is still there, like the previously used grease is say calcium base or lithium base, I'm introducing a lithium complex plus calcium complex. It's a multi complex thickener base grease, so it can be directly applied. But then what we suggest is, if the interval the regreasing interval of the previous grease is around 4 hours, even with our new grease we suggest our first regreasing interval of 4 hours, then we start increasing in multiples to 8 hours, then 16 hours, and 30 to 48, because during the running conditions the grease the old grease and the burn grease remaining in the pockets can be removed during the performance with the new grease. Even if there is a tendency of putting the new grease, still the still the fresh grease comes out from the other end, still the old particles, old grease is always remaining in the housing and all that. So we, yes, if it is a compatible grease or compatible lubricant, we normally suggest it to top up with the fresh grease and keep the same interval for the first time and then start increasing. In case of hydraulic systems or gear oils, we always recommend to remove the entire previous lubricant, clean the system, rinse the system very thoroughly, and then put up a new fresh gear oil, because then it will give a proper performance as we are committing.
Okay, so let me come to the end of session as a conclusion of this program. So thank you very much, Samir Bhagwatji, for opening out inside of nano lubricants. This is a far different and deep subject. That's what we all understood today, and really related to growth in a various factor of the industrial need, which is directly required nowadays for growing India, make India once again great. So I'm behalf of the Tech Forum, I really thanks to you and all participant participating this session.